In Peru, the political crisis continues. Protests demanding Dina Boluarte's resignation extend to at least 16 regions of the country, with Lima in the center of the mobilizations. In Venezuela, the public prosecutor's office issued a new arrest warrant for opposition leader and fugitive from justice, Julio Borges. And in Burkina Faso, security forces continue searching for about 50 women kidnapped by suspected terrorists. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. And now we begin with the news. In Peru, demonstrations against Dina Boluarte's government extend to at least 16 regions of the country. Farmers, organizations, and thousands of people from different regions of Peru moved during the early hours of Tuesday morning to the capital Lima to participate in the March of the Four Suyos and demand the resignation of President Dina Boluarte. The Apurimac region completed 14 days of an indefinite strike. In localities like Andahuaylas and Uripa, the population remains in the streets. Hundreds of people from this region headed to Lima with the objective of participating in the so-called March of the Four Suyos. Approximately 35 road points in this department remain blocked. And the Peruvian Congress overruled the vote of confidence in the Cabinet of Ministers in the wake of the nation's political situation. The norm presented by the legislative body received the support of 75 congresspersons, while another 46 voted against. If it does not reach the support of the two-thirds, the measure must be submitted to a referendum. Authorities indicated that the constitutional reform is a mandatory parliamentary process to validate the executive cabinets. The Venezuelan Public Prosecutor's Office issued a new arrest warrant for opposition leader and fugitive from justice, Julio Borges, for the crimes of treason and conspiracy. Venezuela's Attorney General Tarek William Saab explained that the new arrest warrant against Julio Borges is linked to his participation in the failed coup attempt carried out by the extreme right wing on April 30th, 2019.
Today, an arrest warrant was requested against Julio Borges for the crimes of treason, conspiracy, and association before the Second Court of Control against Terrorism. I must remember that Borges has two previous arrest warrants, one for his indirect participation in the theft of the Republic's gold deposited in England, and the other for the planning and financing of the assassination attempt against the head of state Nicolás Maduro on August 4, 2018.
The Attorney General of Venezuela, Tarek William Saab, recalled the coup actions promoted by the sectors of the extreme right on April 30th, 2019.
That day, a group of active military as well as a group of military traitors to the uniform and to the homeland. They belonged to various security agencies accompanied by a small group of leaders of the opposition and deputies of the National Assembly of the 2015 time, proceeded not only to release this criminal who just said that bit of nonsense, but obviously went at that time in the early morning of April 30 to the Altamira Bridge to settle with weapons and made a call for a coup d'etat.
Tarek William Saab then authored a balance sheet on the investigations related to the failed coup attempt perpetrated by the extreme right.
To date, and this is the balance that I want to give, 93 people have been investigated, of which 7 have already been sentenced by admission of the facts. 19 are in trial deprived of their freedom. Another 5 are in trial with precautionary measures. 2 citizens of all these have been pardoned, and 38 are fugitives from justice as fugitives.
Colombian authorities announced the arrests of two brothers in charge of the logistics in the deadly shooting in which a Paraguayan prosecutor vacationing in Colombia was murdered last year. During a press statement, Francisco Barbosa, the Attorney General of Colombia, identified the arrested brothers as Andrés Felipe and Ramón Emilio Pérez Hoyos. He also added that the prosecutor's office had documents, clothes, and a vehicle, among other elements, confirming that the arrested individuals coordinated the execution of the crime and met with the people who directly participated in the incident.
We've captured in the last hours brothers Andrés Felipe and Ramón Emilio Pérez Hoyos. These two persons apparently were in charge of the logistics that allowed the criminal action on May 10, 2022, ended the life of the prosecutor Pechi in Baru Beach, in Cartagena de Indias. The prosecutor's office has documents, clothes, and a vehicle, among other elements, that allow the inferring that the arrested individuals coordinated the execution of the crime and met with people who directly participated in this incident.
And on Monday, new images were revealed of the devastation caused by the Bolsonarists who attacked the Planalto government palace just over a week ago. New images taken by the security cameras show how the demonstrators attacked the presidential palace's historical heritage. The recordings released by the well-known program Fantástico from O Globo show a Bolsonarista throwing a fire extinguisher against one of the first-floor windows more than once. The protesters are also seen tearing down the curtains of the palace and breaking the glass of a table with historical documents inside. Let's take a short break, but first, remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In the Bolivian territory, multiple municipalities have registered several meteorological events since the beginning of 2023, including heavy rains and droughts. The Vice Minister of Civil Defense of the state, Juan Carlos Calvimontes, reported that the situation has affected 12 municipalities, affecting crops. Local media reported that the drought phenomenon is directly affecting the municipality of Chaco, the rains in the east and part of the center. In the southern department of Tarija and in the department of Santa Cruz, 3,000 hectares of soybeans were affected. And El Salvador's civil protection system issued a red alert in 2 municipalities in the western part of the country after more than 200 tremors were registered since Sunday night. No fatalities have been reported. The system activated Monday an emergency plan following a 5.1 magnitude earthquake in the municipality of San Lorenzo in the Ahuachapán department. The quake was followed by more than 200 aftershocks, causing damage to more than 100 homes, as well as landslides on the road leading to the Las Chinamas border crossing with Guatemala.
When we felt it was like a bang that we heard, and when we saw the house, it was almost all on the ground. Yes, it was rough.
Yes, my small house is honestly quite damaged. It was cut lengthwise. The first quake slashed it, and then today it just collapsed. So my little house is completely destroyed.
Social and political organizations and unions in El Salvador mobilized to commemorate the 31st anniversary of the peace accords. Mobilizations took place in the streets of the capital, San Salvador, in defense of democracy, the rule of law, and against the exception regime of Nayib Bukele's government. Also, members of the Farabundo Martí Front for National Liberation reminded the signature of the agreements during a ceremony at the Christ of Peace monument. And the last two climate activists occupying a western German village to stop it making way for a coal mine extension left their underground hideout on Monday, marking the end of the police operation to evict them. Already abandoned by its original residents, Luthura became a symbol for resistance against fossil fuels. Around 300 activists occupy the village, staking out emptied building and building positions in the trees to try to prevent the expansion of the adjacent Garzweiler open-cast coal mine. The end of the police operation to clear the town came despite a huge demonstration held on Saturday, attended by Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg. And on Monday, the UN's Yemen envoy Hans Grandberg said in a press conference he is encouraged by what he calls an intensification of diplomatic efforts to arrange a new truce in the 8-year war, in which he reiterates his appreciation for the efforts of Saudi Arabia and Oman and in this matter.
Currently seeing an intensification of regional and international diplomatic activity to resolve the conflict in Yemen. And I would like to reiterate my appreciation for the efforts of Saudi Arabia and Oman in this regard. We are witnessing a potential step change in the trajectory of this 8-year conflict. Ongoing dialogues are a possibility that should not be wasted and that demands responsible actions.
Also, Grandberg cautions that despite a showing of general military restraint by both sides, a simple miscalculation could reignite a cycle of violence that will be difficult to reverse.
Combined with negative rhetoric and escalatory political and economic measures, create a situation where a simple miscalculation could reignite a cycle of violence that will be difficult to reverse. I therefore urge the parties to actively work to extend the longest period of relative quiet we have seen in the past 8 years.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Moldova, health authorities reported the first 3 infections with the COVID-19 subvariant called XBB.1.5 of Omicron. The National Public Health Agency reported that the infections were detected in the Dubazari region after monitoring genome sequencing data from SARS-CoV-2. In turn, the World Health Organization stated that this new subvariant, XBB.1.5, is the most contagious one detected so far. On Monday, 5 Indonesian men charged with negligence, leading to one of the worst stadium disasters in football history, appeared in court by video link as their trial began. 3 local police officers, a match organizer, and a security official were all charged with negligence for their role in the disaster and face a maximum sentence of 5 years imprisonment if found guilty. A 6th suspect, a former director of the company that runs Indonesia's Premier League, remains under police investigation. Security forces are searching for about 50 women kidnapped by suspected terrorists in insurgency-hit northern Burkina Faso, a regional governor said on Monday. As the search continues in northern Burkina Faso for some 50 women abducted on Thursday and Friday by suspected terrorists, Burkinabe human rights defender Daouda Diallo expressed his concern about a new situation. Sahel Regional Governor Lieutenant Colonel Rudolph Sorgo said in a statement that as soon as their disappearance was announced, efforts were launched to find all of these innocent victims safe and sound. On Monday, 25 activists of Zimbabwean opposition arrived in court after police raided the house of a minister of parliament for alleged unlawful gathering. The raid took place on Saturday at the home of Costa Machingauta, a legislator with the opposition Citizens Coalition for Change. The police arrested the 25 activists allegedly holding a public meeting, which requires police clearance in Zimbabwe, but the opposition party said it was a private meeting. According to the lawyer, the detainees filed a request for bail, but the state is opposing to do so.
The state has preferred charges of contravention of Section 37 of the Criminal Law Codification and Reform Act, which has to do with participating in an illegal gathering for the purposes of promoting or inciting public violence. Opposing bail. So the state is opposing bail. The IO is still on the witness stand. The court has adjourned because it has other business that it has to deal with, and the matter has been postponed to tomorrow at 11:15 for continuation of the bail application. Of the 20.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.